Senate these days, but ethics reform is an opportunity. Corruption, I think we're all paying a corruption tax as individuals. I think businesses look at Florida, they see the level of corruption here, and they read about corruption in Forbes magazine, Florida corruption in Forbes magazine. Why would they bring jobs here? Why would they open a business here? Why are there only 16 Fortune 500 companies in Florida when we're about to be the third largest state and the 20th largest global economy? You know what our competitors have? New York, California, and Texas all have 50 Fortune 500 companies or more each. Corruption in Florida is killing jobs. If they want to use the phrase, somebody wants to use the phrase job killer, corruption's the job killer. That's probably the only time I want to use that word. You know, I don't care for the phrase job killer, but corruption certainly is a job killer. So we need to do something about it. And Tallahassee hasn't taken much action for ethics reform, a comprehensive effort for ethics reform, since the days of Governor Ruben Askew. Since the late 60s, early 70s in Florida. It's been too long since we've had a serious discussion about our corruption problem and a serious discussion about the solutions needed to fix it. So the Florida Commission on Ethics is going to meet on June 15th, and they're going to set the agenda for ethics reform for 2013 at that meeting. That's why our report's coming out on June 6th, because it's important that we inform this Florida Commission on Ethics about what some of the best ideas, best practices from around the country look like, and let's hope they set an agenda for meaningful ethics reform for next legislative session. So the discussion's beginning now. As you all are talking to candidates running for office, it's important to ask them, where do they stand on ethics reform? What do they think about Florida being known as the #1 state for corruption? Are they going to stand for that? What are they going to do about it? Let's make this part of the discussion this election cycle. We all can have a role in the effort for ethics reform. And we'll share the research from that report with you. The League of Women Voters has been a great partner. They've offered to share our research through local chapters across the state. We'll come back anytime you want us to. Our next report, we're going to do a 67-county review in Florida of all these local ethics ordinances. Which counties have local lobbying ordinances, local ethics ordinances? There's some good things happening. We can pick the best ones and share them with you. And you all can decide, do you want the school board or the city council or the county commission to adopt a lobbying ordinance, to adopt more disclosure about how they spend our money? I think it's time we see that every penny of our money that's being spent by government at all levels be posted online for us to track. I think they should have a comment section for every policy proposal and every penny spent so we can weigh in and suggest if it's a good idea or a bad idea. It's time that our government at all levels be modernized and get with the times. They passed the Sunshine Law in 1967. So it's about time to modernize and dust off that Sunshine Law. Governor Askew at the time said, you've got to give the public the tools to hold their government accountable. Well, how do you like the tools of today? Where public records exist, but we don't know about them. I say government information should be public information. And if it's not online today, it doesn't exist. So it's time that the White House just released their digital strategy. The White House, the federal government, is looking at a new way of doing business and interacting with us as citizens, that the default will be when they create a government document or create government data, they put it online to begin with. Don't make us wonder if it exists or not and chase it down and pay enormous fees to get public records and wait for it, wait for it, wait for it. Government information is public information. You have a right to it. We have a right to it. It's time that we begin operating in the sunshine at a whole other level with the tools of today. And we're working with the First Amendment Foundation, with Barbara Peterson on various projects for open government. And our vision is that you go to one place, maybe it's even an app on your phone, where you can follow the money in politics, every dollar spent on campaign finance, all the money tied to our public officials based on their financial disclosure forms, all the money spent by lobbyists and what they're working on, and all the money going to vendors, going to companies like Walmart and Sam's Club that are going to get a corporate or a government handout for a store they are already building anyway on 34th Street. Why are they doing that? That was the first report we released was a focus on an entity called Enterprise Florida, which was created in 1996 by Governor Childs under a Democrat governor. The idea was if we have the government and the private sector working together in a public-private partnership in pursuit of new jobs to Florida, and expanded jobs here with existing businesses, that would be a good strategy. The legislative intent said that it should be a 50-50 funding split, where the private sector would bring 50% of the resources to the table and the government would bring 50%. Well, that never happened. At best, Enterprise Florida has about 15% private sector funding. Visit Florida and other public-private partnerships have a much higher share of private sector funding and government money. So they're spending our money, and the official policy of the state of Florida is government creates jobs. And we didn't weigh in on whether or not that's the right policy or not. We certainly hear from a lot of folks that say we don't like government picking winners and losers in the marketplace. We don't think government creates jobs. We think the private sector creates jobs. We think government should create an environment for a business climate that people want to bring jobs to. That's the feedback we hear. But the policy right now in the state of Florida, through Enterprise Florida, is government creates jobs. And our tax dollars are going to companies, about $18 million to Walmart since 1996. You know, companies that you wonder, do they need the money? You know, where are the small business owners? Are they getting any help? Are entrepreneurs or startups getting help? You know, why Walmart and not CVS? You know, why is the government picking winners and losers? You know, all that needs to be examined. So let's find out if it works first. We're all for more disclosure, because corruption does not like sunlight. And disclosure is the answer. Disclosure is how we get accountability to find out if our money is being spent well or not. So we focus on Enterprise Florida. We started asking them, you know, where's our money going? How much have you spent? What companies received it? How many jobs were promised? And have they arrived yet? And we did that because the Tampa Bay Times and the Orlando Sentinel looked into the data, and they found what they could find was since 1996, only about a third of the jobs promised actually showed up. Where are the jobs? We have more than 800,000 Floridians out of work. Enterprise Florida has a jobs created or retained goal each year of about 20,000. At that rate, it would take 42 years to find a job for every out-of-work Floridian. Is the goal right? Is the strategy effective? You know, where's the accountability? So let's see on a public database, and Enterprise Florida committed to us that they're going to do this to some extent by July. They're going to post more information about incentives. What we'd like to see is who got our money, how much money did they get, how many jobs did they promise, and are they here yet? When are they coming? I mean, that seems like a reasonable amount of information. We got that D+ grade on stateintegrity.org's corruption risk report card for public access to information. You can understand why, if you ever try to do a public records request of Enterprise Florida, we just asked for their agenda, their last board of directors meeting. We couldn't even get that from them. Imagine a government entity not giving you the agenda for their meeting. You have a right to that information. You know? So CFO Atwater's on the board of Enterprise Florida. We asked him for it. He gave it to us right away. We posted it online. I think probably the first time their agenda was ever online before me. We showed up. My wife Nicole shot a video of the meeting of Enterprise Florida. We posted that online. You can see that on our website, integrityflorida.org. You're not going to like what you see. You're not going to like how they're doing business, this group that's supposed to be helping us get jobs in Florida. What we saw was companies are paying about $50,000 to be on the board of Enterprise Florida, to be able to sit next to the governor and the attorney general, CFO, and the agriculture commissioner and our legislative leaders. Why would they do that? What we found was that a significant number of these companies are getting tax incentives themselves from Enterprise Florida. We found that they're getting vendor contracts. And we're questioning, why is this happening? We went to the meeting in Jacksonville, and what we saw, 2 of the 3 sponsors of the week's events were Florida Blue and Wells Fargo. The Wednesday night before the Thursday board meeting, there was a reception and a dinner at Florida Blue for the board of Enterprise Florida. And they got a vendor contract the next day. Has anyone seen the contract? No, not even the board. Wasn't in the board packet. Can you imagine? I mean, local elected officials here in the room, can you imagine voting in favor of a contract that you haven't seen? You don't know how much money it's for. You don't know the length of the contract. That's how they're doing business at Enterprise Florida. That's why we're saying, hey, the public needs to know more about this. Your own board needs to know more about this. I haven't talked to an Enterprise Florida board member yet from the business community that says it's a bad idea to have their agenda online. But they won't even commit to do that for us. So that's why we're keeping an eye on it. We're following the money. They're focused on the issue that we care most about. That's jobs. So let's make sure they're doing it in the sunshine and they're held accountable. I could go on and on about them and others. So let's, why don't we open up some Q&A. I definitely want to talk about some of the open government and open data initiatives that we're proposing as well. Let's start with some questions. We'll jump into it.
Marilyn?